Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Thrilled to have you. I love doing these panels. And we've got one author who's coming back with a book you may have heard about and a new book from one of our other authors that you probably haven't heard about. So stay tuned. And here is the official welcome. Books have the power to do more than share knowledge. They help us reimagine what's possible. The right book can spark clarity, shift culture, and offer practical tools that transform how we lead, collaborate, and connect. Whether you're an entrepreneur, thought leader, or change maker, you'll find inspiration here from authors using their books to fuel movements, grow their businesses, and make a difference. If you're writing or launching a nonfiction book or supporting authors who are, head over to bizbookpubhub.com. It's your go-to resource for vetted service providers, virtual networking events, and a thriving author community. Now, let's dive into today's panel. With me today, I have Barrie Atkin, who wrote Hate Football, Fun Facts to Help You Become Part of the Crowd, a lighthearted, practical guide for anyone who feels left out of football culture, offering fun facts, simple tips, and surprising insights to help you understand and even enjoy the game. And we also have Emily Crookston, who wrote Unwritten, the thought leader's guide to not overthinking your business book, to help business owners stop overthinking and finally write the book that builds their brand without derailing their business in the process. Please join me in welcoming Barrie and Emily. And Barrie, I'm going to kick off this first question to you. I'd love to know a little more of the context of who you had in mind when you wrote the book, Hate Football.
Thanks, Robbie. Thanks for inviting me to be here. Well, your introduction actually says who it's for. It's for people who hate football, but they're hanging out with people who love football, the people who are totally tied up on Sundays, their friends, their social partners, their spouses, their significant others, who would love to have them be part of their enjoyment of football. So you don't have to love football to read you don't have to want to love football to read this book. You have to have some interest in participating. And so reading this book will help you get to the point where you don't feel so left out and football is not this awful thing for you.
I've heard of like golf widows. This is similar. A similar function happens here on Sundays during a certain part of the year. I could have used this book growing up because my dad was a huge football fan. I, went to some games with him. It just sort of was a little over my head. Everyone would hoop and holler, and I'm like, we're hooping and hollering now. Like, I understood the sort of basics, but didn't have the same level of enthusiasm. But he also watched golf on TV, which was over my head. So maybe that's another book for another time. Thank you so much for writing this book. I can imagine a lot of people needing it. Speaking of writing books that people need, Emily, tell us a little bit about why you wrote the book Unwritten.
Yeah. So I am a business book ghostwriter. I write books for my clients. And someone said, well, you should write a book about writing a business book. And I thought, no, there's so many books out there about how to write. Stephen King has a pretty good one. I can't imagine, holding a candle to him. But I realized that I do have a process. I do have a particular unique way that I do it. And I really want to emphasize writing a business book is a unique process for people who are running businesses. So a lot of the books out there are written for authors or for people who want to write a novel, not necessarily a business book, a book that's built to market your business. And I've been bumping into, speakers who want to have books. And those are my people, that kind of thing. People who want to write a book for the purpose of marketing in particular. And so that's why I did
Those
it.
are my people too.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're hooked up, Robbie.
Yeah, I know. I'm really glad
Love
we
it.
did connect because when I was
Yeah.
starting the idea of BizBook Pub Hub, before it had a fancy name and a URL and all the rest, I was just looking. I was doing research calls trying to find a referral network, an author community, something for people like me who were both writing books to grow my business and looking to support those kinds of authors. And I got really excited when I learned about a nonfiction organization, but then it turned out nonfiction's a really wide
Yeah.
genre, like
Yeah.
cookbooks and travel and memoirs. I'm like, oh, that's not really what I mean. So
Yeah.
yeah, like it takes more words to explain it. Like it doesn't have to be a quote business book, but it's a book for your business. So
Right.
yeah.
Yes,
And
exactly.
Barry, I'm going to come back to you for this because this is a different book from the one we were talking about before. Because you also wrote a book called Hate Fundraising, and that one is very tied to the work that you do in the world, and this one's clearly tied to a passion that you have. And I'm curious, like when you first came out with this book, like how was it received, the Hate Football book? Like, did you find that some of the same people were interested? Did you have to find a new audience for it? Was there a ready-made audience because you knew all the people who were like miserable on Sundays? Like, how did you first get the book out into the world?
It's much easier to find the people who love football and then say, this is a book for you to gift to the people in your life who don't, and that you want them to join you.
That makes so
And,
much sense.
but I've been giving workshops for years, especially through women's groups, on how football can help your business, how understanding the strategy of football can help your business, how there are metaphors from football, and also why football is important for you to understand for your business in the same way that some people say playing golf is important for your business.
Yeah, it's social time. Like it makes sense. If you find a camaraderie, a community, it's a way to socialize outside of a business setting, but still be engaged in conversation with the same people you'd want to be getting to know on a personal level. It makes a lot of sense. And I could totally see. I have a cousin who actually has a whole trailer that's got the Giants like logo all over it. It's parked in his cul-de-sac, and that's for tailgating. Like it's huge. It's an RV basically for the purpose of tailgating, and for the space that they're in, like there's a whole world around this. So I have to make sure they know about this book, because I'm sure that now you're making me think like, oh, I do know people who probably could pass this along. Like it's a little like hint, hint, nudge, nudge, read this book, honey. Like you might actually enjoy
Right.
hanging out with us.
It's also back in the days when people actually went into the office, and when football was all, at least professional NFL football was all on Sundays. You'd come into the office on Mondays and people would be around the coffee machine and say, how about them Eagles?
Right.
And I don't know if people do that as much anymore because they're not in the office as much, but football is a conversation in the office.
I will say I got on a Zoom call, a professional Zoom call with a client with his team. And while we were waiting for people to come on, they were chatting about, I don't even know what kind of sports ball, but like they were having that conversation about how their team was doing. I don't even know if it was college. I don't know if it was professional. Like, and I've always been clueless about these things. Like, and I lived in Boston, which is where Barry and I met, and everybody there is a sports fanatic, and for every team, whether they're winning or losing, it didn't matter. And you really have to learn the lingo, and it's like a protective thing to feel like you fit in. Oh, and they found out I was from New York, and so that really, I had to bolster my local cred by talking up how great the Red Sox were. So
now that you're in the Philadelphia area,
I know
that's a huge sports location too.
Another one.
I lived there for many years.
Oh my gosh! All right, this is great. I'm my wheels are churning now. And Emily, this has not been out very long, but I was just looking at Amazon, and you have 4 awards listed here. You have 3 awards and I guess an honorable mention. Tell me a little bit about that process. We haven't really talked about that in the context of this podcast, but well, I want to ask, why do it? Let's just talk about like why at all think about awards.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about doing awards myself until a friend of mine who published a book maybe a couple of months before my book came out last year in October, and she had won a bunch of awards, and so it came on my radar as something to do. So I used a hybrid publisher called Amplify Publishing Group. And I just asked them, I said, does it make sense to apply for these awards? And they said, oh yeah, we'll do it for you. So they did the application processes. So that was a no-brainer. The only thing is that kind of bothers me about it is you have to pay to apply for these awards. And So, when you're paying for an award, sometimes that feels a little weird, but there's lots of books that you're competing against. It's not like you're buying. It's not like feel like I'm buying the award or anything like that. But it does annoy me that there's a little application fee, but that's the way the world,
Yeah, I
that's the way
actually
the
talked
world
to
goes.
someone about 6 months ago who told me that she applied for 12 awards, got 9 awards and 3 honorable mentions. And
Wow.
my response was, why? Like, were you
Right.
that uncertain? Like, you had to apply to 12 and there is a fee involved, right? So there's a
Mhm.
time of applying. I mean, for you, it was lucky that Amplify took on the filling of the forms.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
got an award for my 3rd book and from the Nonfiction Authors Association, and I did all the research to figure out which place to apply. And I
Mhm.
knew some people involved and so I understood the process was legit. That was one of the things that was important, like
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, I know it's a good book, so now I want to see if other people think this. But to apply to
Yeah, yeah.
12 made me wonder if like she wasn't sure she would get any awards, like, and then
Yeah.
she got. There's almost like a diminishing returns. Like having 9 awards and 3 honorable mentions is like kind of my
Right.
opinion was like a lot.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Yeah, yeah, I applied to, I don't know, maybe 8 or something like that, but yeah, they said, "Well, don't do these because" I don't know, "they get too many applications," or I don't know what it was, or it wasn't exactly a great fit for it, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of awards out there, and you have to just they gave me a list as well of the awards, which was helpful because otherwise you're doing the research and, it takes time to find where to apply and all of that. But yeah, it's kind of cool. So every once in a while, someone says, "Wow, look at all your awards." So
I
that's
mean,
nice.
like just now, right? I was like,
Right,
oh,
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I had a client also who won an award for her book, and I felt really proud about that,
yeah.
because
Well,
that
and
was cool.
Carol Abramson is about to join the BizBook Pub Hub. Her information will be up shortly, and
Yeah.
she's a new hub partner of the BizBook Pub Hub, and she focuses specifically on helping people figure out the awards process. So it's
Oh,
kind of fun
nice.
that we're going to have her joining us because it is a
Yeah.
lot, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could just spend a lot of money and
Yeah.
not
Mhm.
necessarily get a lot of bang for your buck. But can you share, in your opinion, Emily, the difference between that and being a bestseller? Because that's the other thing a lot
Mm.
of your authors talk about.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, being a bestseller, there's different ways to talk about it, and there's different lists also of what counts as being a bestseller. But on Amazon, there are so many categories. So, it's really a good thing to be on a bestseller list on Amazon. It helps your rankings in the algorithm. It helps with boost sales, all of that. So it's really a good idea to go for that. If you want to be a New York Times bestseller, or if you want to be on the Wall Street Journal list, those kinds of things, that's a longer process that requires selling a lot more books than getting on the bestseller list in a category on Amazon. But it's really valuable to be able to have that ranking as bestseller. And yeah, I mean, in the book world, there's a lot of controversy about calling yourself a bestseller when it's just a bestseller on Amazon, as opposed, because people outside of the book world say bestseller. Oh, you were on the New York Times, and it's like, well, no, not like that. So yeah, there's all these little status things that you have to kind of dig into and read about if you're curious about those kinds of things.
And
But
the
yeah,
award is sort of similar, like it's a status
yeah,
thing. And
right,
so have that. It's printed somewhere on a website. You can point to it when needed. You can put a
yeah,
link to it from your website, and it's
yeah,
it's a it's a more lasting like
mhm,
status symbol than hitting #1 bestseller
right,
in some Amazon category, getting the orange ribbon for a second. Which I agree, like we should aim to sell a lot of books out of the gate in order to get the ranking ups, in order to be more visible and discoverable. Um, but I've been playing around with this question lately because I was asking a friend of mine who does Amazon ads whether I should think to do Amazon ads for my latest book, which is called
ah,
Launch Your Book, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Reviews that Drive Revenue. And as I was asking him, we were like on a text thread. I looked up and when you search the word book launch, no quotes, just book launch,
mhm,
in the all for Amazon, it I come up right after the sponsored listings. And I had people I was on a Zoom call with. I was like, could everyone check? Like, and I showed up sort of, it's interesting how in the exact same second, the book showed up slightly differently, but I was like on the first half of the page below like the sponsored stuff. So it's like, well, no, you're organically getting a top spot. And I'm doing that through the number of written reviews that I have gotten on that book. It's now 140-ish reviews, and I want to keep, sorry, 240-ish reviews. I want to keep pushing because other books obviously have more. But these are all different ways to like think about discoverability. I'm gonna head over here back to Barrie. Barrie, this was not your first book, so I imagine approaching writing this book was a little bit different because you already knew you could write a book. Like, what was the process like in comparison to writing your first book? Was it easier? Was it harder because there's a topic change? Like, how did you approach it, the same or different from the first book you were writing?
Actually, this book is the second edition. And so I wrote this book originally more than 2 years ago and brought it out at the wrong time, just in January 2 years ago, as the football season was winding down. So there was no time, well, it was winding up, but there was no time to promote it. So this book will be out in October and in time to really promote it, because people who aren't interested in football aren't even going to get interested in football until the playoffs.
Right.
And so I want them to know about it and have it in their hands and have read it before the playoffs start.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, so, you could be ready for Super Bowl Sunday.
That's right. Right. And what I've done is, in those 2 years, I've collected all sorts of notes and clippings from various magazines and newspapers about things that have happened. And so I'm really taking the old one, updating it, and adding a lot more content. Because I had a chapter, Brady versus Belichick, and there's been a lot of change in both of their lives since then. And a chapter on gambling, whole bunch of differences.
It's so interesting because just like writing about technology, things evolve quickly in the world of sports and the who's who and the what's what. So yeah, I could see needing to do this. And when I was writing my book, I had to research the question of at what point is it a second edition? And it depended on a few different factors. Whether you need an ISBN was sort of one definition, and then what Amazon thought. But the general rule that I was able to find was if you had 10% more or different content. And it sounds like that's what you were doing. You were like updating existing content plus adding content.
Exactly.
And now you have the new book coming out. That's great.
I never thought of including the tush push 3 years ago. And for those who don't know what that is,
we don't know.
That's where the offensive line pushes over the person with the football over the end zone to get the points. And there's been a lot of controversy whether or not that should be allowed. But right now, it's currently still allowed. But it's my favorite play, at least in terms of the name. The tush
hashtag push. Tush push. Seriously.
Yeah. And it's huge for the Philadelphia Eagles, right, Barrie?
Right.
They're the big team that does it. Yeah.
Right.
So you should know about it, Robbie.
Thank you. I feel better. I'm going to go to a professional networking event and I'm going to need to know this. I have to read this book. I have to be up to date on what's going on. This is so great. We're laughing, but also this is exactly the kind of stuff that makes people feel ostracized or left out of a conversation, when it's sort of like everyone's in on the joke, except for the person who has no idea that there's a joke. And sports is a cultural phenomenon in a lot of places. And so I actually think what you're doing is giving people a lifeline into their professional networks and their social networks. Like, it gives them a way in that they may not have accessed before. And it's just the same as like knowing any kind of cultural context of what's happening in the world. I mean, in another space, maybe you'd have to know everything that's happening in like People magazine, right? Like, I don't know, like some people know different things are currency. But if your space might have this currency, this is a really important book. I'm making it into this larger context because I do think you wrote it. It sounds like it's kind of a funny thing, but like in reality, it's going to help people feel much more included. They don't have to become super fans to understand that Super Bowl is more than the 7-layer dip. and commercials, which is kind of how I had approached it.
Right. And the halftime show.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Tell me when it's on and I'll come back in the room.
The halftime show gets more viewers than the football game itself.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. This is really interesting. And you said, Barrie, that you also have presented on this. And
Yep.
tell us a little bit about the context of how you get invited in to speak on the topic of football and business.
It's usually with women's groups. And so I'll be talking, because though there'll be ringers in the crowd, a lot of the people aren't as familiar with professional football. And so I present it in the context of what you need to know about professional football to do exactly what you just said, Robbie, to be part of your professional network, to be able to talk football or understand or not look dumb when you're part of the professional network, or when people start talking about professional football, and that you can be included and make sense.
It's so great. I I think that there are other books to be written that are in that same vein, that maybe someone listening right now is suddenly like, whoa, I have this passion that I have for whatever the thing is, like opera. Like, why don't I create a book about understanding opera for all the people who are, opera widows, and help them find context and understanding. And, it is a really interesting way to approach finding a purpose in writing a book, which, Emily, I'm going to come back to you on that question, because you're helping people who often approach you as the ghostwriter. But before you decide to ghostwrite a book, there's probably a bunch of questions you want to kind of go through with the author or the would-be author. How do you help them decide that it's the right kind of book for them?
Yeah, this is a great question. I see kind of two types of books that I write for people. So there's sort of the big business book where you're thinking about starting a movement of some kind. It's you're the next Brené Brown. You really want to put your heart and soul into this, and maybe it's the only book you're ever going to write. It's the big baby. And then there's people who want to write sort of just a topic focused book. Like, this is my system I've created. I use it with my clients. It makes sense that it should have its own, it should have its own platform. It should be a book of its own. But someone could write several of those types of books. And often writing a book sparks those other ideas, which is another thing that I love about it, is, the thoughts that come from, so much thinking happens in the writing, and so much thinking happens in the conversations that I have with my clients, that it's often like, oh, well, the next book, but before we're done, we're already talking about the next book, which I love. There are a lot of questions. I mean, my first question always, what's the business case? How does this fit into your business model? What makes sense? Because if you're going to write, especially like a book that's starting a movement, I've talked to so many people, and it's like, well, I have a passion for football. I want to write a book about football, but it has nothing to do with their business at all. And I say, okay, go write a football book. That's amazing, but don't pay me to write a football book for you, because we want to write something that's going to help promote your business, that's going to be an investment for you, that has a clear way to make back some money. This is an investment. That's the main thing I'm looking for with the clients I work for.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've had to get clear over time about who I will want to book a 30-minute complimentary brainstorming call with, particularly like a book launch brainstorming or relaunch brainstorming. And because I spoke for BAPA, which is the Bay Area Independent Publishers Association, on a Zoom, and their membership is sort of split between fiction and nonfiction. And so a bunch of folks who wrote memoirs were getting on calls with me, and we could have a nice conversation. This is before my book came out, but now I'm like, just read my book. Like, you're not going to hire me. You shouldn't hire me, honestly. But you could read my book and follow the steps in the book to get a better outcome for your book, like as far as getting reviews and getting it launched. But the speaker who has a business speaking and is writing a book that's related in some way to either a current keynote or a new to be created keynote, I'm like, oh yeah, let's just really do this up. And whatever you're paying me, your first gig is gonna cover like
Yeah.
This is not a long time, the recovery to get your money back. It should be like one,
Right.
and then you're off and running. But it's
Right.
like understanding who that audience is. And part of me writing a
Mhm.
book was to attract certain people to me, but also to put up a better barrier on who I gave my free time to. So it's sort of an interesting thing. I imagine, Barrie, now instead of you having to be like, well, let me explain football to you while we're all here, chit-chatting, you're gonna be like, well, if you really want to know, like, you could read the book, and then that'll help get you kind of off and running. You know what I mean? It's interesting how a book can actually help us reclaim some time. Barrie, what are your thoughts on that?
I love talking football, so
You're like, never mind, I'll always do it. I can see this. Barrie, I want to give you kudos, because when we first connected about this book, you hadn't really done a lot around reviews, but it feels like it's you have a bunch of reviews from early on, and you're about to have this newer release come out. So with this new edition, do you have a plan for how you're going to come out of the gate with lots of reviews? Because I know we worked really hard on this for Hate Fundraising. How are you applying some of what you learned from launching Hate Fundraising to this new book?
that's part of my work after I finish writing this and get it to my editor. But I will really focus on a lot of the football podcasts for people who love football and really speak to them, because there are a lot of those out there, podcasts and shows, radio shows. And that's really, I'm really looking at as a gift book from them, especially as the season comes up. So bringing it out in October, in late October, and then Thanksgiving and the holidays coming up, that's where I see my market for, hey, this is a great gift, so you can enjoy football together.
That's awesome. Let's stick with reviews for a second. Coming back to Emily. Emily, my congratulations to you. You've done two things that I think are really awesome. One, you have 31 written reviews, and anything over 20 means you put some real effort into it. And you have reviews that a bunch of them came in even this last July, around probably the last Kindle flash sale. But even, there's reviews sort of been coming in, streaming in this whole year. But you have 31 reviews and 31 ratings, which means 100% of the people who went to leave you a rating also wrote something, which means you put effort into getting reviews. Tell me about how your understanding of the importance of reviews has evolved. How are you getting reviews? And if it ties into the Kindle flash sale, that makes sense. Let me know. If not, we'll follow up with a different question.
No, it definitely ties in. Everything I know about reviews, I learned from you, Robbie. I didn't know that reviews were so important, but they are. And, so I tell everybody, anytime someone reaches out about the book, or I talk to anybody about the book, I just say the number one thing you can do for me if you want to help is write a review for the book, and so I periodically, I have a list of people that I've asked to review the book. And if they haven't done it yet, then I bug them again, I ask them to do it. And then I keep adding to that list, pretty much every time I have a new client, or every time I, send the book to someone, I say, please, write a review. That'd be really great. So yeah, I love the idea. I probably should come up with a new goal for the end of the year, like 50 or, something like that. And just go for it. Cause I get very motivated when I have like a number in my head. I love, and I mean, I've learned that from you too, with the latest book. I know you got 100 by launch, right? Or 200 by launch. And then you're trying to get 1,000 by the end of the year, or whatever it is. And I really respect that kind of.
Well, I really think that given where you are at 31, I know we're like practically doubling it, but I do think 50 is within reach. And the Kindle flash sale, the way I think of the Kindle flash sale, which is this campaign I organize with authors like the two of you 3 times a year. It happens sort of April, July, and then the last one is Cyber Monday, which is usually the end of November. This year it happens to be December 1st. It's a 4-day push to get people to pay attention to all of our books, and we cross-promote all of our books on our website. But 2 weeks before each of those time periods, the books are discounted. So we start to work to get all the authors to lower their book to 99 cents 2 weeks beforehand. And now that's for a few reasons. There's just the technical part of, I know someone's going to have trouble doing that, lowering price, and I need to figure out who it is so I can help them get it done in time for the campaign. But for the author, Emily, and both of you actually, because Barry, your book will have just come out. This is a really good opportunity to say to people, hey, I know you have a copy of my book, or if not, it's about to be 99 cents. Could you commit to leaving a review by this date? And like, if they could do it before US Thanksgiving, that it'll be in place before the Monday of Cyber Monday. I think sometimes giving people that sort of timeline, deadline, like it's contained, it's not just like a generic, hey, one day, could you write a review? It can help spur them to move it into from the to-do item to the to-done item. But giving them review prompts and all that other stuff can really help. So I think you could really pull that off if you just like put a little effort in between now and US Thanksgiving. We're recording now in early September. This will come out. It'll air in late October. So we'll have to check in with you, Emily, when this airs to see how well it's doing.
Well, the anniversary of my book launch is coming up too, so that can be another reason to do a little push.
I love it.
I like that. I can use that for hate fundraising.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
and the cross promotion is great because I buy 5 books and people do the same for me, and so it's a really nice, mutual give and take.
I'm looking forward to the December flash sale.
And I just to be really clear about this is not an author review exchange. And I say that because that's actually against the rules. I just got someone emailing me, oh, hey, so-and-so said, wow, you only have 23 reviews, which by the way is not nothing. And this person was pitching, I have 2,000 people who are willing to write your review, and you just tip them some dollar amount. And I was like, that's not okay. Like, so I wrote back the author and he's like, I knew you were going to say that. I just knew it. That's why I just wanted you to tell me that so that I didn't do anything. And I was like, you can't exchange with another author direct, like, hey, I'll do this, you do this. You can't do that. It's like, you can't offer people like a raffle or a tchotchke or anything other than the advanced reader copy, which is allowed, or a 99-cent discount, like you could discount your book. But what we do is it's optional for all the authors to join the Kindle flash sale. And if you go to bizkindlepromo.com, which we'll put in the show notes, you can get on the wait list or join the next Kindle flash sale, bizkindlepromo.com. You can the option is that you will commit to buying 5 books that you're interested in, and then writing a review in about 6-8 weeks after the campaign ends. And I think just that does help get a few come in from each of these every time we do this, but it's not a guarantee, and people can just opt out of it entirely. So I think we have to be really careful. I've seen some like 6- and 7-figure authors, like big entrepreneurs, who advertise things like a raffle for an hour of their coaching. And I'm like, oh, like you don't, you can't give like you can't be like, only you get this bonus content because you left a review. Like, no, everyone on the team gets the bonus content. That there's so, I feel like my book doesn't stress that enough. If I had a concern about what I left out, it's that I probably could overemphasize that more because I keep seeing it pop up. And I know, Emily, people get super excited once they learn reviews are important. They want to game the system to make them happen. And it's like, be careful. Be careful. I worry because like Amazon's a really big deal in the context for independent authors in particular. It's hard to get out there. And so Barrie, your book coming out in October, and then you being in this Kindle flash sale December 1, was that purposeful? You thinking about, okay, October is a good time to release this book because it's a gift book. December 1 will give me a reason to really push this out right at the holidays. Is it sort of fitting in with your launch plan?
Totally fitting in, and especially with the timing of the NFL football season. So that's great. And I'm really looking forward to promoting it. And then getting in touch with anyone I know who gave me a review on the first edition. I don't know yet whether the reviews I got from that will transfer over to the second edition, which will have a different ISBN because it is more than 10% more content. So
you can contact KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, which is through Amazon, and ask them that question. They may not. I think they're more likely to do it if you had a volume. Like if you had hundreds, they might be more likely to move it over. but it's good that you're going to take note of who the original people were, because you might want to just take that book down. I've had differing advice depending on the author. I have another author who I was like, well, you could leave your first one up. There's a lot of reviews. But now her new book actually has more reviews. So now I'm like, well, now you could probably take the first one down. It does cause some confusion. She found, and this is part of my caution to you, Barrie, people were like, oh yeah, I left you a review. And it was for the first book. They got distracted and they went on, and that was the book that popped up, and they left a review. So it got a little confusing. But she wanted to make sure the new one had a good, strong presence before she took the old one down. But it actually happened really quickly for her. She's probably at like 150 reviews now, so I think she's doing fine. Shout out to Lois Kramer. Yeah, her book is Book More Business, Make More Money Speaking is the second edition. All right, so shout out to Lois for a great launch. I'm curious, Barrie, are you putting any kind of lead magnets in this new edition? Something that's going to get people onto an email list for you, or download any kind of content from you? Are you building a community of any kind?
Yes, I have.
How are you? Yeah, how are you sort of converting a reader to something more?
I have a lead magnet, and it's especially for people who don't really understand football. And it's a checklist of how to think about a game that's coming up, all the things that you might want to learn about and watch for during the game.
Oh, I also think, it'd be really fun. A bingo card. Man, Super Bowl would be so much more fun if like I had Tush Push as one of my bingo entries and I could look for it. I'd be really watching the game for the Tush Push, just so I could be like, oh, I got that one on my board.
Okay, that's a great idea. Let's work on it together, Robbie.
I think that you could just like have, a set of 10 different bingo cards, so they're all different, and they get handed out to all the people who aren't actually paying attention to make them pay more attention.
That's a fabulous idea, and you're my audience, so
I really am.
So that's really a great idea, and whether you do it with me or not, if I do it, which I plan to do it now, I will credit you.
Well, now I'll put Tush Push. I'll be looking for Tush Push whenever the Eagles play. Emily, how do you think about lead magnets? And actually, I have a slightly different question for you, Emily. What's the best lead magnet one of your authors included? Does one pop out as being like, wow, I'm so smart of them to include that?
That's a great question. I always think about, I often talk to authors and they always have some kind of workshop piece involved in not workshop, workbook, workbook pieces involved, and they want to know if they should have a separate workbook in addition to the book, or should they just include the questions? Often authors have journaling, prompts or reflection questions in their books, because often, and I do respect this a lot, you don't just want someone to read your book, you want them to take action, especially, if you're writing a business book. I want authors to start writing their books when they read my book. And I recommend that you pick a word count goal and for each week, and you write a certain number of words each week. And so you might want a nice little chart to check that off so that you can feel good when you're hitting your word count goals. So stuff like that, anything that's going to help you not only read the book, but digest it and use it in your work. Those are the best lead magnet ideas. I'm trying to think of a client has had a good lead magnet. I really love the idea of like a zine. So sometimes you could do like a summary or like a short version of the book and have it, folded up so that it's like a little zine, you can like a baby magazine kind of a thing. I think those are really cool and a little bit interactive, especially if it's a book that's really creative. One of my favorite artists who's also an author, does this. He creates little zines with the books that he writes.
I love the idea of it being reflective of the content of the book, and if it's a fun, artsy, creative book, like it shouldn't just be a dry checklist, right? Finding a way to reflect that. I love when books have reflection questions. I personally am not great at stopping to like do the work in that moment, because I just want to like keep reading. But then if there's a download PDF or a workbook to buy, or both, because people some people will buy the workbook because they want the bound version. Some people are happy with the PDF. You get their email address if you get them to do the
Right.
PDF version. So that's a
Yeah.
bonus for you.
Yep.
It may be worth a lot more than the few bucks
Mhm.
you'd make off a workbook. So
Mhm.
pulling those out, Dory Clark wrote a book where she had all these questions at the end of each chapter, and then she pulled them all out. And there was so many pages and pages and pages. And that she added tens of thousands of people to her email list over the few years that she was pushing that as the
Mhm.
hey, do you want to get the, from this book? And her numbers like skyrocketed because she put it as in the bio. She was writing for Harvard Business Review and Fast Company and
Mhm.
Fortune, and she would put the link to that opt-in was like not just in the book, but was sort of showing up everywhere. I think that really
Mhm.
boosted things for her. So I think it can be something that's in the book. For me, I have content that's kind of workbook style in the book, like step by step, and I take it
Mhm.
out and format it as a PDF version because again, I want people to implement the strategy and
Right.
have that. And I've added video, as
Yeah.
well, and yeah, you can get
Yeah.
really creative with it.
There's
Um,
so many things to do. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah.
It's really good.
As we're wrapping up here, Barrie, I'm curious, what advice would you want to give someone who's thinking about writing a book to help them grow their business? Because you've now done this multiple times, 3 times over. Like,
Mhm.
what comes to mind that would be advice you'd share?
Don't put it off. It took me 10 years to write my hate fundraising because I kept putting it off. I would do a draft, I would do part of it, and then I would stop and get sidetracked. I really like Emily's advice: do a certain word count per week, um, create a deadline with 2 other people so that you have a draft that is due. It doesn't have to be a good draft, just get something done. Write an article, doesn't have to be a book. Write an article or a couple of articles about your topic and then compile them. I'm working on a branding book right now also, and I'm taking content I've written or presentations I've given in the past, and I'm putting that all together and then creating a couple of new books.
Mm-hmm. It's so smart, right? Like writing a book should not be this thing you do sort of completely in secret. I think if it's content you've already put out into the world, people have
Mhm.
reacted to it, it's helpful and useful, then you can take it, compile it, tweak it, add some stories, and voila. Especially when you're talking about the difference between Emily, you were saying like the book,
Mhm.
and these sort of books by topic. Like this is my
Mhm.
4 books are all things I've figured out. If
Right.
I figure it out, I'm gonna share it. It also makes
Yeah.
more educated prospects. So then they understand the
Mhm.
value of what I do in a bigger way because they can read my book, learn from me, and then realize, oh, I don't want to do that by myself. And then they like
Mhm.
knock, knock, Robbie, can you help us? Right. So I love this. And Emily, as we close out, how about you? Any closing thoughts or advice you would give someone who's writing a book to help them grow their business?
Yeah, I second everything Barry said, but the biggest thing I say is don't overthink it. This the point of the book is to help get the word out. It's to help document some things that you do really well so you can show your unique practice and your unique style, your systems, whatever it is. And that's really the point. It doesn't have to be War and Peace. You're not writing War and Peace. Just get that messy draft out and you'll feel great and then you can edit as long as you want. That's what I always tell people.
And it doesn't have to be long.
Right.
My,
Right.
my
Mhm.
branding draft is 5,000 words.
Yeah. Yeah.
My hate
Exactly.
fundraising was, I think, 13,000, 15,000 words. My original football book, Hate Football, was 10,000, and the new one will be 15,000.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Good.
It's just about
Mhm.
getting the
Mhm.
content to people, not
Mhm.
Yep.
overthinking it is a big, big piece of this.
Mhm.
Barrie, how can people find you and follow your work?
My name, Barrie Atkin, Barrie Atkin, is also my website, barrieatkin.com.
Brilliant. And we're going to have all these links in the show notes at bizbookpubhub.com, including your LinkedIn, and we'll have links to your books as well. And Emily,
Great.
how can people find you and follow your work?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Emily Crookston there. And you can also find my website, which is thepocketphd.com. That's the name of my business. Yeah.
Fantastic. We'll put all those links at bizbookpubhub.com, which is also, we're going to find a vetted list of incredible hub partners who can help entrepreneurs through their author journey, writing, editing, publishing, launching, and marketing their book that will help them grow their business. We host virtual networking events every single month. focused either on writers and authors, or we also have another one that I do for speakers. We have the Biz Kindle collaboration. So the Kindle flash sales, you can learn all about that. You can learn about my book and what I'm doing. So just go head over there. There's a lot of resources for you, including all of the show notes that you may have missed for previous episodes. So check out all those episodes as well at bizbookpubhub.com. Barrie and Emily, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you, Robbie. You're amazing and wonderful. And a shout out to you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. So fun.